Welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series, novels, and films. For this episode, our story is full of song about a family proud and strong, and the girl who just doesn't belong. That's right, we're talking Disney's Encanto. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Stephen Ford, joined as always by Joel Killingsworth.
Hello.
And Andrew Knuckles.
Hola.
I told you I was going to shoot you a curveball. The hesitation there from away.
It was like, I was like, whoa.
Got him. All right, guys. Well, before we dive down into the magical world of Encanto,
it was quite magical.
Very, very much so magic. Très magnifique. Anyways.
What is French, sir?
Whatever. Anyways. We're going to have a little discussion here, maybe a little chat about some favorite movie. Well, actually, I shouldn't say movies, media. Books don't count for this.
But yeah, you definitely cannot. I mean, I guess you could if you want
to. We're going to break out the Silmarillion.
Yeah, are we just going to start singing Elven songs?
Yeah.
Could that be counted as a musical?
So Andrew's tipping the hand here, but we're going to talk about favorite musical. And I guess I'll give it to Andrew
Nope,
first.
not me first.
Oh, no. Oh, I've been denied. I'm going to put this out to Joel first.
Okay, am I allowed to do like one of those greeting cards that when you open it, it starts playing a song? Is that?
Oh, as a
that
musical? Is that what you're trying to pass off? Is that your book?
So, what I'm bringing to the table is the theatrical production of The Lion King.
Okay.
I have gone to see it twice, and once when it came to Atlanta when I was in grade school, and then more recently when it came to Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just a fantastic experience of getting to see the way that the artists and puppeteers and creators have brought all of the puppetry in the costumes to life for all of the animals. And you get to relive your favorite Disney movie, or, maybe not your favorite Disney movie, but
favorite Disney
your favorite Disney movie for sure.
Definitely Steven's favorite.
And it just gets enhanced by getting to witness the artistry that is the stage production.
Right. Yeah. No, it's the costumes are something else in that.
Yeah, that is one theatrical production that I'm sad that I haven't been able to actually see yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something I really want to see as well. I've seen a fair number of things, but that is one that is out there still.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So obviously I can't go to Andrew.
You can go back to me now. I just had to make sure that it was, I had the right year for the production.
Okay, that's great. I'm not going to Andrew. I'm going to myself. So my entry for musical, because Andrew put up a roadblock and said, you can't do this one. I'm doing it. I said, well, that's fine. I wasn't doing it anyways. I was going to do this one.
Well, he was in the top two.
It was. That's fine. I'm not doing it. I'm doing this one.
Are you going to pick Lion King?
No. the CGI Lion King. No.
Oh, God.
No. So my musical is Newsies.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar.
I've never heard of that.
Okay.
I've seen it a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it in theaters. And so this is a movie that it was not a success. It was slammed critically. Like, we literally were kids with me and my sister and my mom. We're the only person in the theater on opening day of this movie. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was kind of crazy. It was also, you learn real quick, hey, when no one else is in the theater, it's cold. But it is very much so a kid power movie. So it is focused around
like High School Musical?
No. So all of your children here. So this is turn of the century New York.
Okay.
So rough and tumble. These are all kids. Almost all the kids are orphans or abandoned, etc. And they sell the newspaper. So they're the kids on the side of the block with a stack of papers. Hey, head extra, Hindenburg Burns. This kind of stuff, right?
And it has a big name cast. It stars.
Don't take my fire.
All right. But you better bring the fire.
I got the fire. Oh, I got a fact.
Hindenburg's burning
I got
down,
a fact about your fire too. But basically, the newspaper, the monopolies, right? And I can't think of, it's not Rockefeller, but it's a big barren name from back then. They kind of wedge the newsboys out. They cut the amount of money that they're gonna make, and they go on strike. Yeah. And so it's the kids rebel. Okay. But it's musical. They have choreographic dance numbers, all this other stuff. It's pretty well done. And so the headliner cast, who at the time was not a big name, but is now, the lead is Christian Bale.
Oh, wow.
And he tried out for this role and got the role without knowing it was a musical. So then he found out, oh, it's a musical, and I have a whole singing number of my own.
Oh, wow.
That's like
Yeah.
his want song.
Mm-hmm.
So he had this massive crash course of several weeks of I have to learn how to sing.
And he was 18 at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I mean, for me, it's going to be special just because I was a kid. It was, kid power.
Yeah.
This is like what the kids can do. They band together. It has these really great moments when, the kids are, pushing back against the adults. And Christian Bale plays kind of the cool kid. He knows it all, et cetera, et cetera. And you're really following another kid who is selling papers to help support his family because his dad is ill or has been injured.
Of course, because that's turn of the century like checkbox right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. It's all of and all your characters they don't really get names. They're just nicknames. So you have Crutchy because he's on crutches, and you have all this. But it's just overall, it's really great and it's really well done.
Yeah.
Joel,
so why was it panned by critics?
I don't really know. I don't really care.
They just didn't like it at the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it may have just been, it's a musical about the horrible living conditions in New York. Why would anyone want to know about that?
You never know.
Yeah. Joel, did you have something to add to the cast?
Just that the other big names that were in it were Bill Pullman and Robert Duvall.
Yeah. Okay. So Bill Pullman is the reporter who is kind of reporting on the strike,
and
so
Robert Duvall is the bad guy, right? I'm assuming that
I assume so as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't. It's so long. It's been a while since I've tried college. So I've seen it.
If Christian Bale was 18, or like he was young at the time, Robert Duvall would still be relatively older. So
and you can always make up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Bill Pullman is kind of documenting this because obviously they're trying to stop the news in New York, but news is ongoing elsewhere in the world, and they're trying to garner support and this kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
It's honestly, it's a great movie.
I'll have to put that on my list.
Yeah.
Of things.
Well, you like musicals, as we're about to go into.
I love musicals.
Yeah. So Andrew?
So I picked the 2001 Moulin Rouge.
Yeah,
with
good choice.
Ian McGregor and Nicole Kidman. It is one of those. So it's a jukebox musical, meaning that all of the music in the film is taken from other artists and then kind of like mashed together into kind of whatever they wanted to make it. So one of the bigger pieces of the film, which is kind of like the villain song essentially for Monsieur Ziegler? No, yeah.
Yeah.
No. Anyways, the bad guy. Yeah, the villain. And it's Madonna's Like a Virgin, but it's him singing it instead of her singing it. So there's a lot of kind of mixtures of different genres. Like they have the Beatles, Paul McCartney, Queen, the Police, like all sorts of like really fun music, but it's all sung by Ewan McGregor, he's just a total dreamboat in the movie. Then you
Andrew's
have
true celebrity crush.
Oh man, Ewan McGregor, like he just doesn't age either. Like all he does is he just gets a beard. He
ages like fine wine.
Yeah. But then you have Nicole Kidman, who's also one of my other favorite actresses, and her singing voice, especially because it's a tragedy, and I'm not going to give away
great tales.
But the whole setting is it is essentially turn of the century France with the Bohemian Revolution, which is like free thinking artistry and everything, and it takes place at basically a can dancer establishment. And the main character Satine, she wants to become an actress and kind of leave this kind of seedy life of being a courtesan, and the transformation of trying to turn the Moulin Rouge, which is the location, into a theater instead of just kind of like this, seedy dance bar.
Yeah.
And Ewan McGregor is the main character. He is the writer for the play that they're trying to do. And it's kind of like they have to hide their relationship from the benefactor, which is the villain. And it's honestly just all the music's really fun. And the visuals at the time were pretty cool. And one of the other reasons why I picked this, because John Leguizamo is Toulouse-Lautrec in Moulin Rouge.
He is. And
then he's also Bruno in Encanto.
Ooh, got the tie-in.
Yep.
Christian Bale was not in Encanto.
He was definitely not in Encanto. And the fun thing
there were animals in Encanto,
yes,
and they made noises during songs.
Yep.
That's my tie-in. Those weren't animals. That was Alan Tudyk.
John. The fun thing is too. So Encanto takes place in Colombia, and John Leguizamo is Colombian.
I actually
not everyone from the cast is from Colombia. However, they're all Latino.
Yeah, there was definitely a strong effort on that.
Yes, very strong.
So, speaking of that, that's a nice segue into...
I do what I can.
Yes, coming through in the clutch there into our actual meat of the discussion. So, as is per tradition, Joel is there for us with a bad synopsis.
Okay, so talking about...
Synopsis has been kind of good lately.
Synopses.
Don't. If you lower expectations, the result will be better.
All right. So bad synopsis for Encanto. So you have an isolated, idyllic mountain village in the wilds of Colombia,
the jungle,
and you have this one family that kind of serves as kind of the center of life in this village, and they have a magical house which gifts them each a special magical ability.
What's a candle? It's not the house.
It's the candle. The candle empowers the house, which house as character is pretty fun.
Yes, it is. It's also probably out in 2D.
But anyway, so the main character, you quickly discover upon her gifting ceremony, she was seemingly rejected by the magic, and she did not receive a gift or a special room of her own. And so she continues to live in the nursery where the little kids stay. So that's kind of a symbol of her being less than the rest of the family.
Until the little children graduate to have an ability.
Yeah, so she's basically the older sister that is taking care of the kids.
Yeah,
she kind of Cinderella'd.
And then then her younger cousin, we pick up with his gifting day, and there's a lot of tension, and he goes through and during his ceremony, she sees a vision of the house starting to crack and come apart, and she's actually minorly injured by some of the clattering debris, and she comes to the rest of the family and says, "We've got to do something. The house is coming apart." And when they go to inspect, they don't see any problem. It's been repaired. And so there's a lot of, then she has to figure out, well, what's really going on, while the family doesn't believe her and thinks just like she's trying to mess with the kids' time in the sun because she didn't get any.
Right.
And so from there on, we get to explore a really fantastic evaluation of interpersonal relationships and conflicts within a family. And this is a really fantastic story that Disney has attempted a few times, and this one really pulled it off, where there is not a villain.
Or not a true dyed-in-the-wool villain.
And well, I mean, there is an antagonist, but there is no villain.
Yeah, no one committed to evil.
There's no ill intention beyond the essentially pride.
Yeah. Right. So this is a true relationship story where if you don't cry during this film, either you had a perfect family life or you're a monster.
Well, I just feel incredibly called out.
Wow.
No, like if you're not prone to crying, then you get a pass.
It's fine. Joel and I are very prone to crying.
We're just bawling, bawling. This is
right on each other's shoulders. Really going, tears flowing.
Different homes, far apart, miles apart.
Come on now.
But there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on that note, what was our composite score?
Well, our composite score for this was an 8.7.
That's very high.
And that was under complaint, under duress, under protest.
Joel brought it down.
I brought it down.
Yes.
But I enjoyed it immensely. It has nothing to do with how much I enjoyed it. So
that's totally fine.
And just for reference, so that is based on our 4 pillars of review for a film or TV series, which would be spectacle. So how it looks,
how it feels,
the emotions, which is going to be a big factor here, the performance of the cast, the actors, etc.
And in this case, since it was animated, the animators,
how well that flows with what's going on screen, how well the vocal and animation matches. Score, so the music, and how well it complements or detracts, and then of course the plot, which is the plot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, maybe some first impressions.
Yeah.
Andrew jumped in, so go for it.
Yeah, okay. So whenever I saw this previewed, I mean, months ago, I was actually really excited for it. And then whenever it came out, I think I was just so busy with other stuff watching for the podcast that I kind of forgot about it. And not a lot of people really talked about it initially. And then I think like it gave about like 3 weeks of time, and then everyone kind of finally caught on that this was a movie that you needed to watch. And Holly and I watched just a little behind the scenes of them creating some of the music for the film and some of the research that went behind it, and just kind of how much effort they put into a lot to making it very honorable to like the Colombian roots that a lot of the music is based from. And so I was like, okay, well, we just have to watch this now.
And they didn't come in and pull an Avatar and pull from all these authentic things
and butcher it. Not use it. So then we watched it, and I really enjoyed it a lot. And so then I was like, hey, we probably need to actually review this because this was really good. I'd probably say it's one of the better modern 3D animated Disney films that have come out probably within the past decade.
I would say in the genre where it sits, which is kind of it's almost like they're creating films targeted at children that are not only good stories, but they also model this is what relationships are like. These are signs of damaged relationships, and here's how it can be fixed. Right. So it has a really positive message, and it addresses real problems that unless you are taught, you don't really have the tools to fix on your own.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing that I really liked about the film itself, just the kind of the whole resolution of it was, and whenever we're looking at a film objectively for reviewing on the podcast, we look at plot, and that's always the one you can punch all the holes for. And a lot of times, you see like, oh, well, if someone would have just communicated something at the beginning of the film, then there wouldn't be a conflict, essentially.
Yeah.
And this is not that kind of film where everyone had to go through, especially Mirabel and Abuela, to go through this experience for them to accept each other as who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And like back to your point where this is like the best Disney thing. And I think in order to find another animated film to put up to this in kind of the same vein, you'd have to go over to Pixar for particularly Inside Out.
Yeah. Yeah, Inside Out's a really good one because it has a similar kind of like relationship feel.
Yeah. Onward.
Onward
it's an adventure, but it's all about the relationships within that adventure.
Are there other thoughts besides me just talking?
I don't know. I quite enjoyed listening to you talk and just sitting and doing nothing. It was nice. Anyways, opinions. So, it's another kind of similar deal where for me, it flew under the radar. I didn't notice it. Lauren, I don't know. I just didn't get advertised. It just didn't hit. Maybe it's an issue with targeted advertising where it just doesn't see me. Lauren was all about it though. We actually watched it New Year's Eve. So that was quite a while back. Initial watching was good. I wouldn't say that it was like, oh, it was the most phenomenal thing ever, but we were also, it was New Year's Eve. We were kind of partying. So it wasn't the most
party intensive.
Yeah, the most focused atmosphere. But it was good. And then on second watching it, I think it really hits. You have a chance you don't have to be as focused on the animation or necessarily
like what's kind of happening,
the storyline itself. And you can really focus on the emotions. And that one was hard in the sense of it's hard not to cry.
But you didn't. So
I didn't because of the weird faults or flaws within myself. That's okay. But
it's okay not to cry. It's fine.
It's okay. It's okay to cry. It's also okay not to. It's just okay. Everything is okay. But overall, I thought it was really great. It's a very small scope film in terms of this is not saving the world.
Yeah.
There is no we're going to go punch the asteroid or there's nothing like that. It's very, very tight knit, tightly focused, emotional story, and that's for me maybe. Maybe I'm a monster for not putting it in my Disney top 5. I really actually just totally etched it out because I didn't want to lean into recency bias.
Yeah.
Because I felt that was a little unfair. But also, it's one of those movies that might be hard for me to rewatch a lot just because so much of it relies on emotion.
Yeah.
So, Joel?
Well, I feel like I've already said a lot. Like
Speak to me.
I'm just going to reiterate then.
Go for it.
It is really wonderful to see this kind of film be executed so well and have such an uplifting message.
It has a lot of heart.
And
oh yeah.
And like you were talking about, the stakes in this film are not nobody's in danger of their life.
No, at any time, really.
Like, well, I mean, there's one point where there's a little bit of danger.
It's a little absurd, though. It's not.
Yeah. But
anyways, well, that's a spoiler wall issue. We'll get in there.
But what is at stake is familial relationships. And the whole time, the main character is going about this quest that she has, and almost unwittingly, she is bumping up against the real conflicts, which have to do with the unspoken pressures and resentments within the family life that has been constructed in this place, and those kind of being brought to light and then being discussed and being understood and being accepted is the journey of the film, and it's just absolutely phenomenal.
Well, it's a very tight-knit community. It's a very small area, right? It's all enclosed in by the mountains, by the magic. And so it's a very natural pressure cooker environment where the small things can build and build and build, right? So on that note, as we enter the intermission, if you can't handle the pressure of spoilers, we understand. But if you like what you've heard so far, you can help us bear the load at patreon.com/spoilersintendedpodcast. If you're ready to hear more, welcome to the family. Alrighty, and now that we are well and truly past the intermission, hope you enjoyed your little break. It is all spoilers all the time from here on out. And we are going to kick it off here, do a little breakdown on how we arrived at our score. So first up is Spectacle, and I'm going to give this to myself because I deserve it.
Do whatever you want, man.
So I gave it a 9 because the animation is gorgeous. They developed a lot of technology or a lot of effort into things like Mirabelle's skirt and the ruffles involved. Yeah, the movement that it has is great. They actually kind of just show off in moments. The rats. I don't know if you noticed, but like when they're in there with Bruno and he's doing like, oh, you can watch a novella or this or that. The rats look realistic, and it was a little almost like you don't fit in an animated movie. You went too far, guys.
They never asked if they could or they should.
Yeah. They just did. Yeah. Your scientists were too busy asking if they could. They didn't ask if they should. There we go. We'll get the line out. Or like the wind and rain effect when they're starting into You Don't Talk About Bruno with the wedding. Like that effect was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Lighting effects, especially when we hit Mirabelle's want song.
Yeah.
And time kind of freezes and you have the old timey, it's like, is it sulfur? The camera flash.
Yeah. It's,
I don't think it's sulfur.
Magnesium.
Magnesium, yes. The big camera flash, which in a film, we just shot this in slow-mo. In an animation, I put every single frame of the light glowing and retracting into this.
Yeah.
And same thing when she's going in the steps and the sparklers as the kids are running with the trail and the way the light effects play off of different elements in the setting. The house was amazing.
Yeah, it was a really good character of its own.
Yeah, casita, its own little living, breathing piece of the family. There's a lot of really great things to say. I mean, obviously I gave it a 9, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to take everything, so I'm going to hand this off to Andrew.
So I gave it a 10.
Oh, okay. Well,
this is, honestly, this is better than a lot of Pixar films.
Yes.
Like not even like from like,
Toy Story.
You can't compare it. Like even just like the modern, like if you look at like Incredibles 2, which is relatively recent, like this is like so far and above. And it's always been kind of the idea with like Pixar is like that's the animation studio. And then Disney also makes their own films, but they're kind of like closing the gap.
Yeah.
With their production values.
Well, and I think some of it too is when you look at something. Oh no, that's also Disney. Shoot, my comparison doesn't work. but with Moana, you may not see the improvement because a lot of times it's the ocean, and animating the ocean in 3D is hard. Water is hard, but like it's a lighter blue above a darker blue. Whereas this, you get all the colors, the vibrancy, etc.
So you kind of mentioned it earlier, but the animation that they put into the characters is just so far and above anything that I've seen them do. Like, so, like everyone always has their own dance numbers, and, they're always well animated. Like there's never been a Disney film that I've seen in recent years that I was like, oh, I just didn't really like their movement didn't make sense to me. But this, especially during the musical numbers where Mirabelle is interacting with other members of her family, where like they're all kind of dancing together, is just fantastic.
They flow a lot better.
Yeah, and it really fits the just the style that they were kind of going for with kind of like the salsa and the Latino music that is really vibrant. Is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, the colors pop while the music pops, while the movement pops.
Yeah,
and two of those fit in spectacle, and one of them goes somewhere else.
Yeah,
probably my favorite musical number out of the whole film was
which we'll talk about with the music section.
We'll talk. Well, no, but
there's a visual element.
Yeah,
was the "What Else Can I Do," which is whenever Isabella and Mirabelle are kind of like reconciling.
Yeah,
and it is, flowers always have like, the really poppy colors and everything. But then Isabel kind of realizes that she can create cactuses and desert
other plants.
Yeah.
And the whole experience of her kind of like figuring this out while they're, going through this musical number is just so visually appealing, especially whenever they start kind of throwing around like the powder of the colors and everything. And they're going through it, and it's landing on their clothes, and it's just such a fantastic sequence and it's a great song too. But we'll get to that in a bit. It was just, oh man, I loved it.
Yeah,
Joel?
I gave it a. See if I can find where I put it. I gave it a 9.
Oh, okay. Starting to become concerned. I was like, how small is this number?
Yeah, I wrote it so small. I was very ashamed,
very angry about it.
But no, I thought that just to follow up with what you were talking about with the colors, and particularly that scene with the plants and stuff. I thought that the representation of the idyllic mountain village was really, really fantastically created. And, it created this incredible backdrop to the story and the characters and everything that was going on. And then on top of that, I thought the most impressive thing to me, or at least the most eye-catching thing, from the animation was the motion, particularly the camera motion during the musical numbers.
Yeah,
because they're taking the same style, and they did this before with Luca, where
was Luca Pixar?
Luca was Disney, wasn't it?
Ooh, I think Luca was Pixar.
Luca's Pixar. Okay. I'm going to double check that. Okay. Carry on.
Well, then anyway,
they learned from Pixar.
Regardless of which studio did Luca, it's a recent trend. But what they did during Luca, when the main character is daydreaming, essentially, is describing how things are going to be, the way that he sees things being, and is that they completely animated full scenes in very fanciful manner, and it is the future as seen by a child.
Yeah,
and that's what you get to see on screen.
Yeah, Luca is Pixar.
Okay, and what they did the exact same thing from the perspective of these, more aged up characters during all of the musical numbers, is that the musical numbers, what the animated sequences which occurred within them, are not a depiction of what actually occurred in that moment. It is a depiction of the emotional state of the characters as they are going through whatever emotions they're singing about.
Yeah.
And so that was like the motion of that, which they used to really great effect. And then also just the overarching effect of following the characters on these fanciful journeys of self-discovery during
the transitions that they use, especially in the pressure song for Louisa, is just like every single scene that they're in changes into something, you know, like it's seamless every single time, and it obviously fits the lyrics that are happening, but it also, you know, I don't know.
It's just good.
It's just good. Yeah, it's just good.
No, the Surface Pressure song was a standout musically. We'll get to that.
Yep.
But also for the animation that's going on around it. And they kind of got to show off because, again, we were in a small space for a story.
Yeah. Very small scale.
Here, with it being within their head, because the Isabella song really is mostly happening in the physical world.
Yeah, in the...
Whereas Luisa's song is very obviously not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things happening that just can't. And I think that was a greater visual metaphor for what the pressure she is under, which was really impressive. Just that kind of visual storytelling as a element of spectacle was just very impressive. Throughout. Little elements dipped in. I don't know. It's been a meme or like a GIF people have lifted out and thrown around, but in the We Don't Talk About Bruno song, where when she's with Dolores singing, Bruno's actually in the background. And he's just the shape of a dark cloak with two green glowing eyes, but he's dancing to the beat.
Yeah.
And I like that because as the story progresses, he's still part of the family. He still loves his family, and it's him kind of still participating in the song because the whole family participates in the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Including Bruno.
Even though they're not supposed to talk about him.
Don't talk about Bruno. All right. Well, on that note, I think we're ready to move into some performances.
Yep.
I'm going to give this to Joel.
Cool.
So I gave performance an 8.
Okay.
I thought that largely the cast did a phenomenal job hitting home the emotional beats that were required by the story. And, every single character, each of
the main
Mirabel's sisters and then her grandmother, Abuela, those are the primary relationships that she's dealing with. And in each of the sort of not necessarily confrontation scenes, but the heart-to-heart scenes with each of those relationships, everyone involved just did a phenomenal job in really bringing home not only enough to make you understand what the conflict is in that relationship, but also to sell the resolution to that conflict. And so that was just phenomenal there. I thought that the rest of the cast ended up being kind of one-dimensional. They were essentially defined by whatever the magical power that the character had was, and other than that, they were a bit flat. So that
in particular, Mirabel's father was a little.
Well, he has no powers to define.
Well, he doesn't have any powers to
define.
But just like whenever he was kind of like talking or just in a scene, like he didn't really do anything.
Well, it was very specific that he just did whatever his wife did, right? Like he had his own idea, and then his wife would say something different, and then he would align himself to agree with her.
Well, I actually thought that was fun and interesting because for Augustine, I think is his name. Augustine?
Yeah.
And Felix, the other husband who is married into the family, right? They have no powers. So in a sense, they are part of the family. They are in the same situation as Mirabel. They didn't have the opportunity to get powers, but they have the same issue of they don't have anything, and they're kind of finding their own place. And for Augustine, his place is trying to be the father, and his way of fitting in, right, is he mirrors Mirabel's mother, his wife, and obviously, he also relies heavily upon her abilities since he has a strange power to attract bees. I would maintain he has a power because animals
it's just
love
not a
him.
good power.
No, animals throughout the show, animals love him.
Yeah.
The animals that come for Antonio they all hang out with him as well and like follow him around too. It's like, are they all trying to like subtly say that there is a power here? I don't understand what's going on. Or he's just unfortunate because they won't leave him alone. I don't know. Whatever. But I did kind of like it because he's trying to be the good dad. Felix, kind of the same thing, same play of.
I thought Felix actually was a great character.
Yeah, I mean, well, he is a more vibrant personality. Than Mirabel's father was, and I like the interplay within the We Don't Talk About Bruno song where Peppa has am I singing this or are you?
Yeah.
Goes, oh, so sorry. But but they're kind of dipping in and out. We'll get into that. That's later. I guess I just kind of jumped in and took the reins. Andrew, do you want to crack at this? Now that I've denied Joel the rest of his talk.
I'm done. I'm done.
Joel's done. It's fine.
No, I'm kind of on the same level. I gave it a 9.
Okay.
Just every scene, especially the scenes with Abuela and Mirabel, whenever they're having their essentially climactic conflict after the musical number with her sister, and she's clearly. Abuela is mad that she's still kind of like poking her nose into things that probably doesn't need to happen, and they have this really big conflict, and then obviously the house kind of like crumbles because the candle's power is fading because everyone is at ends with each other, and the range that you can get out of both of them whenever they're having this kind of experience, especially whenever Mirabel just finally tells, kind of what everyone else was feeling. It's like, no one's ever going to be good enough for you, and that really, like, that just right in the heart, man. Yep. And, if she was any less of an actress, Stephanie Beatrice, it just wouldn't have carried over as well. Everyone else did really good for the main cast. Isabella, I think, did a really good job being this, hoity-toity.
She's a mean girl.
Yeah. So, and I looked up. So she is supposed to be around 21-ish.
Okay.
And then Louisa's about 19, around that age, because Isabella's the oldest, then Louisa, and then Mirabel's 15.
Okay.
Which is
pretty classic age range for your main character in this kind of story.
Mm-hmm. Which and it makes sense too, because obviously I don't have any siblings, but I know a lot of people that do. And it's, if you have 3 kids, the oldest and the youngest generally don't get along very well, but then the middle child is kind of like the one that makes the peace. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
don't look at me.
It is wildly variable.
Absolutely.
Joel's experience is a much larger experience.
Yeah, but this I'll say that's a trope.
Yeah,
it's just a general rule. And
and it also kind of flips it on its head, because a lot of times in that scenario, the youngest is the baby and they're pampered, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Mirabel doesn't really get that kind
she
of
does
treatment.
not. Yeah. And then Isabel gets that.
Just exists as that.
Yeah.
So I gave performance a 9, and I really thought that Mirabel and Isabella kind of owned the show, even more so even than the Abuela interactions, honestly, for the most part, just because Isabella's swaps from the mean girl to a decent sister. Yeah. Or even just the bit where she drops in the middle of where everyone's thinking bad about Bruno, and Isabella's just, he told me that my life would be perfect. And she was like, yeah, of course. All right. Yeah. You're just going to drop right into the okay. Everyone else is getting along by talking crap about Bruno.
The best part too on that scene is you can see Mirabel in the background just scowling.
Yeah. Her face just, But I really thought the two of them were far and above everyone else, and there's no negative performance here. There's no one who is just like, oh, it's kind of weak.
Yeah, well, even Bruno, John Leguizamo did a fantastic job at being like the kind of like the quirky brother,
socially awkward. How long have you been back here? Okay, we need to get you out. I was like, I mean, because he's comparable age to the other two,
her mom and
Peppa.
Yeah.
So, and Lauren and I also looked up the ages, so they're all roughly around 50. So he's been in the walls since Mirabel's gift ceremony failed, basically.
Yeah. Well, before
no, it was when it failed.
Yeah,
when
after
because that's when he went and did the viewing of her, like why? Because
for Abuela, and then the aftershocks of that drive him in. So I guess he's been in there for 10 years, something like that.
Yeah.
It's a long time to be by yourself.
That is a very long time.
But he does a great job.
He's got the rats. It's fine.
Yeah, gosh. Rats along his back.
The rat's performance was great.
Yeah, high marks. I mean, if we're gonna go into that, we gotta shout out Alan Tudyk as a toucan.
Yeah,
because toucan of disappointment.
Yep.
Quitter. I do like how they poked fun at that. That's for plot or whatever, but they poked fun of the Disney show. Oh, I have a magical friend to accompany you.
Yep.
Bye.
Yeah, just immediately gone.
But I mean, just across the board, everyone, Luisa's actress, Jessica Darrow.
She actually hasn't done a lot.
I didn't go in and look at anyone's filmography.
Yeah,
that's the right word. Yeah, that's the right word. But her vocal range, because Abuela, at least that actress had a singer who took her part. Nobody else did.
Yeah,
and Luisa's normal speaking voice is kind of that husky, deep. Because I mean, she's a big girl, and then when they break into song, she has a couple months where she gets pretty high.
Yeah,
like, this is some pretty hefty range in a vocal cords.
Yeah,
the cats are chasing each other upstairs. It's okay, we'll be fine. So yeah, I mean, I gave it a 9. There's almost nothing negative to say, really.
Well, and that you talking about Louisa kind of is a good little segue to go into the score of the score.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna talk about some music. Let's see, who hasn't gone first?
Me.
Andrew,
I haven't gone first.
Well, let's hear it.
I gave. Sorry, cats are running all around above us,
galloping.
But so I gave the score a 9. Honestly, I've already kind of talked about What Else Can I Do, which is my personal favorite song out of the whole
We should
movie.
each take a song. Maybe, I don't know. There's 4 songs. Crap, that doesn't work.
Well, I mean,
we may have to.
There's actually 6 songs.
Or 4 main songs.
4 main songs, but What Else Can I Do is fantastic. But the Pressure song was great, and Louisa is an alto, and you don't really get to see altos be like the main focus of a song.
It's all about the soprano, right?
Yeah. So it's always, but altos are the backbone of a choir.
And this is very much so Luisa's character as well.
Yeah. No, exactly. And it, there's so many little allegories with that kind of just archetype for that kind of character. And they fit it so well into that song that it was just so good. So I gave it a 9, but the 2 things that I didn't really track well with me from the film was essentially the exposition song, which is kind of like a mainstay for every musical. You need to have some kind of song to explain how the world works.
Right. Here's Belle singing her same song, mean song about us every day. Right?
Yeah. And so if you go to Hercules, you have the muses singing about the Greek mythology, essentially, of kind of how the world works and, whatever. And this one it felt a little ham-handed, where you have the kids that are asking Mirabelle all these questions. And in my mind, you would think that these kids, if they were that excited about this, and I understand it's it is the gifting
they're
day.
hyped up on coffee.
One of them is.
Hyped up on gifting day. Is kind of the thing. So they're asking her, they're all excited about it. And they're using that as essentially the exposition for the song. And it felt a little forced, to where on the first viewing it was so much information that was kind of thrown at you that it made the cast seem way bigger than it actually is.
Yeah.
And it felt a little confusing because there's just so much kind of coming at you, especially with all the movement and the colors.
Yeah.
And this is your first introduction into Mirabelle as a character as well.
I mean, it's actually a little intimidating.
It is
how much they drop on you
in the
span of a song.
It is a lot of exposition. And I am going to defend it a little bit, because using the 3 kids there kind of harkens back to Shakespearean theatrical techniques of using a chorus, right, as a stand-in for the audience to not only tell the audience what to feel, but also relay information to the audience. So there is precedent for this kind of technique, but I absolutely agree that it was just a fire hose of information.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It is very difficult to feel like you understood more than when you began the song.
Well, and they kind of make fun of it too in the middle of the song, where she gets done talking about all I'll say the older the parents and her older sisters, and then the kids are like, but wait, there's more.
Yeah.
What are all the grandkids? And she was like, oh yeah, we have to talk about the grandkids.
Talk about my cousins.
Yeah. And then they go through that. The only other thing that her Mirabelle's Want song, which is the song that you guys mentioned earlier, where she kind of stops time and is going through the photograph and going down the stairs and everything. That one just didn't really do it for me. I don't know if it was just the lyrics or the tempo of the song, but That one, it felt a little flat. I don't really have any other.
It was, most of the other songs had a distinct vibe or feel to them that kind of made them, they kind of wove together like a tapestry, right? Like they were different from one another, but you could tell that they belonged together. And this one felt different than the rest. It kind of felt more generic Disney.
This is almost like it's storytelling, and the character who has been singled out and different from the family has a different song.
Which is totally fine.
You could say that, but it also wasn't interesting.
Well, I see. Okay, I disagree. I actually really like the song because that for me was the song that was the biggest emotional touchstone. And maybe it wasn't the most entertaining song, but it was the biggest, drive straight into your heart. In song moment.
I mean, every character in a musical has to have a want song for a main character.
So I think this is really interesting. I think perhaps we could make some sort of study of our personalities based on which of the characters and their own specific issues that we most identified with.
Oh Lord!
I mean,
let's break out the therapist,
right? Yeah, because you were like, I really love the oldest sister's song, and that was my favorite. And I just like when I went for it the first time, I was like, meh, that's fine. But for me, and I'm going to go ahead and wrest control of this conversation.
Yeah, get a score in there.
I gave it an 8.
Okay.
Overall, very very high marks. I thought that the standout pieces were, of course, the Bruno song,
which is great.
Which is top of the charts.
Off like wildfire.
Yeah, it is higher than Let It Go, which is quite a feat.
It's knocking down records set by Let It Go, which again is one of those things where it was like how fast it got there, and now it's a question of does it stay, because that was the other big mark that Let It Go set.
But it has crested over Let It Go's like maximum
highest point.
Yeah, highest point.
But my personal favorite song out of the whole thing was Surface Pressure, which was Louisa's song. And that one I thought had, one, it resonated with me because her character resonated with me the most out of the cast. And also,
you can lift churches?
Not.
And they stay together.
Metaphorically. Metaphorically.
What else floats? Churches.
But also I thought that the composition was at the same time empathic. It really embodied the words that were being sung, but also was really snappy and peppy and exciting and fun to listen to.
It's a fantastic song, and it's like I said, I really like Isabella's song, but like Surface Pressure is like right there.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll jump in. Y'all both stopped and stared at me. So, I guess it's my turn to talk. So I gave score 9. And, the musical songs were pretty much, they knocked it out of the park. I can also ding the opening song for just, I don't need this much exposition in a song. You can take some of this out of the song and just show it to me in the story.
A fire hose of
I don't need to be sprayed against the wall by this. My actual favorite song was not Mirabelle's Want Song, although I did like it. It is Luisa's Surface Pressure, because, for one, because when we had this moment based on what was happening in the plot, and we'll get there, I had a fear of, oh no, please don't tell me the song is going to be about this and not, and we're going to devolve into a basic story. And then her song starts, oh, thank God.
Yeah, okay, it's just about her and her feelings.
We have some depth here of who she is as a person, how she views her life, how the pressure she's under, and how well she contains it and deals with it as the strongest person, the Superman with feelings, right? What do I do? What happens when I can't save everyone? What happens when I can't fix everything? Because you do kind of see the town just relies on her presence, and they're kind of useless.
Yeah.
Oh, the donkeys are free again. Go get them, you dummy. But she's there. She takes care of everything. She handles all the stuff. And, the song really perfectly displays that of, who am I if I can't?
Yeah.
And, the fear that's tangible in there of, well, yes, I have a gift and Mirabelle doesn't. But what happens when I don't have a gift? Who am I? Like, Mirabelle is at least a somewhat defined person without it, right? She knows who she wants to be, at least, maybe not who she can be. Whereas For some of the other members of the families, the risk is what happens when my gift isn't there.
Yeah, and well, and you know, Luisa specifically, she is such an integral part to the function of the town. And if she loses her ability to help them, you know, obviously, like, that's a very important part of her character. And, you know, her looking at it from an introspective perspective, you know, of like, if I don't have this, like, I'm not worth anything to these, one, to these people, but then two, to me, because I can't help them.
Yeah.
And that's literally what my entire life has been, is helping these people.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then I get to drop in my little dollop of Found's knowledge, because whenever you have a kind of movie like this where you have, you know, it's Spanish, but it's presented to an English audience, there are always little games that can be played with names, and they had to exist somewhere. And I went looking, I didn't find any. And then when I was watching a video, I found it because someone put it in the comments, and I was like, ooh, I don't know if I can trust that. We'll go look it up. I can trust that. That is accurate. That is something that was familiar. So La Familia Madrigal, right? That is their name. Well, Madrigal is a type of choral or choir or song where the parts are woven together. So every different singer has their own part. And when you hit "We Don't Talk About Bruno," that is what they do.
Yeah, whenever they're over
for like the second half of the piece,
right? Yeah, towards the crescendo of it,
dining room table,
and you have that moment because it can be. And on first watching for me, I would have probably dinged the song because it was almost a little too much going on. There was a lot of voices at that point in the song, because up to that point, it's pretty clear. And, you know, the same issue with the exposition, it starts out clear and then it kind of just becomes a mess. Whereas like Luisa's song and Isabella's song is very clear what's being said, who's saying it, etc. But having that moment and weaving that into with the name of it, where when they are talking about Bruno, the family is united and in concert with each other, literally, was really cool effect, especially with doing it through song. You know, obviously, like you said, We Don't Talk About Bruno is, you know, blowing up charts, setting records, et cetera, et cetera. The other, you know, Isabella's song, Luisa's song, they could both be up there. They're really good.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be fair to talk about all these musical numbers without talking about essentially Abuela's song, which is just basically an instrumental Spanish song that she does not sing. It is just basically kind of her background that Mirabel can kind of watch for the most part and experience. And that basically kind of punctuated a lot of the emotions and the reconciliation that like they didn't really have to explain it, even though they kind of did. It's still a Disney film. But if they didn't, like, basically after the song, if they didn't say any words, it still would have been just as strong, with just because it had this really beautiful Spanish song that kind of like just kept the scene going with a really good emotional crescendo, I thought.
Yeah, that's another good point. We all gave really high scores, and it's not just the musical numbers. The background music was there when it needed to be there to punctuate and to help carry emotion, etc.
I would say the name of the song, but because I have it written down, but I have no idea how to pronounce it, and I don't want to ruin it. So,
yeah. Well, now I just want to know what it's called.
I mean, you can look it up.
Butcher it.
No. Okay, so
spell it.
You spell it.
You can look it up.
Insert it manually.
You have a phone. You have the computer in your hand. You can go look it up.
I can.
But we're going to move on to the plot.
Oh, Andrew's taking control here. Look at you.
I'm just trying to deflect.
I know you are. I'm trying to get my phone out so I can look this up. Well, I'm going to hand off the plot to somebody else while I look.
Okay, I'll take the plot. So I gave, we talked about the plot is the easiest thing to punch holes in, right?
Always.
So I gave this plot a 7.
Okay.
And I want to start with the main negative, which I felt like was a pretty large negative. And then talk about some other stuff that was really great, because there was a lot of really great stuff in here. And that main negative being the fact that Dolores exists.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
That was my big knock.
So one main, like the core reason for the rising tension between Mirabel and Abuela during, the second act of the film is because Dolores overhears what Mirabel discovered in Bruno's tower.
Yeah.
And she can't keep her mouth shut. She has to tell people. And that scene at the table is absolutely
hilarious.
It's
so good.
So
because you've got just this incredible expression of Mirabel staring across the table at Dolores saying, "You better not tell, you better not tell." And then as people hand dishes across and break the eye contact, and then she sees Dolores talking to the next person in line, and then something else comes by and she sees them talking to the next person in line, right? And so that was a great scene. But at the end of the film, we have Dolores revealing that she knew where Bruno was the entire time, which she had to because she has super hearing.
And she can hear everything.
But the whole plot relied on the fact that she can't keep a secret. And yet she kept that secret.
Well, okay, so there is a slight possibility that she could have just thought it was rats in the walls.
No, she associated him with the sound of falling sand and rats. She knows it's him.
She says she knew he was there.
He was there the whole time.
Well, okay, yeah. So, because I watched the movie again today, and when it got to that point, I was like, pause, go back, watch it again, pause, and I just wanted to make sure that I was like reading it right, because that's pretty much what I've knocked it for, was the fact that she could hear everything, but how could you, like, for the past 8 years, not notice another person in the house that is not technically supposed to be there?
Yeah, literally living in the walls.
Yes.
So, but that was really the only main thing that I knocked it for.
Yeah.
Other than that, just the elements.
That was 3 points worth?
It was big.
I mean,
it was big.
It wasn't everyone became illiterate.
No,
big,
but it was.
That's a reference to our Atlantis episode.
And I knocked that a lot more.
Oh, yeah, we all did. Yes.
But the fact that that was the catalyst for the rising tension in the conflict through the center part of the story, and that got undermined at the end. If it had been used elsewhere in not as critical a place, I would have deducted less for it.
Well, okay, but so here's a question. Would her telling people that Bruno was there, would that have made a difference at all?
Yeah. Well, but how can you tell people about Bruno? We don't talk about Bruno. Abuela's only rule, basically,
is we don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno.
So maybe every time she tried to bring it up, then
she gets shot down.
Just got shot
down. You know what? You can rationalize basically anything you want to, but if it's not in the film, or it's not in the book, or not in the whatever,
in the film.
Hey, it's okay. When we get over to me on the plot, we're going to rationalize picking up a whole church and it sticking together.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, magic. It doesn't matter.
We're going to rationalize it.
Okay,
I didn't say I was going to debunk it. I was going to rationalize
what are some of the good things that you
some of the fantastic things is...
He said good, not fantastic. Say something for us.
Is the depth and care that they put into the effects that the constant expectation to perform had on particularly the youngest generation, and how their
Antonio.
Literally the youngest generation,
and how their entire identities were completely wrapped up in not only what they could do for the town, but what they could do for the family.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have Luisa, who is completely, just absolutely paranoid that if she can't do more than everyone else, then she's nothing. It's not that she's just maybe a little less. Yeah. She is literally nothing if she can't do everything. And then, you have the oldest sister who has to be perfect and doesn't want to be, but can't not be.
Right.
And the way that kind of distortion on the gifts that they have received not only negatively reflects on their self-image, but negatively reflects on their ability to have loving relationships with their own family members.
Yeah. So I gave plot a 9.
Ooh, we got a bit of a swing there.
Well, no,
it feels bigger than it really is, because Joel was 7.
7, yeah.
It's not that big, but it still feels like a swing.
Kind of piggybacking off of what Joel was talking about, the amount of emphasis that they put on the expectations, but then also the disappointment for not being able to live up to those expectations, especially from Abuela, which is, it's a multi-generational home, and she is the matriarch. She is the one that runs everything. She makes sure that, kind of like, a taskmaster for less term. Yeah. And everyone wants to be, worth her. Like everyone wants to get her praise.
I mean,
essentially,
it's a really traditional family. She goes to the other family's house, not Isabella, not Mariano or whatever his name is. They don't get together about the engagement. Abuela goes to the family's house to negotiate the engagement, and Isabella is going along with it because she wants to do for her family. She doesn't care about the guy.
Yeah, well, and she doesn't want to. She has to be perfect, and Abuela's vision of perfect is you have to get married to this guy.
Because he's perfect.
Because he's perfect, or whatever. And
the looks, the bod, the voice,
the way that they portray that throughout the film, especially with Mirabel at the beginning, where like clearly Abuela does not look kindly on her because she doesn't have a gift. She was the failure.
Well, and you have to remember that at that point of our introduction, where Mirabel is 15. Abuela knows the vision's there of, well, is she the cause of the cracks?
Yeah.
Or can she fix it? Like, she knows that this could be the problem, right?
Yeah.
So there's kind of that harshness and pressure put on of, well, is just your very presence the problem? We don't know. Or she doesn't know.
Yeah, and then Abuela also has the pride of being essentially the savior of this town, to make sure that her family is always, as perfect as it possibly can be, to make sure that the town doesn't go wrong because everyone's relying on them. And, it really leads to just so many emotional moments towards the end of the film, especially whenever she is, out in the river and, they're kind of like experiencing this vision of her past together. And it's just so emotional.
Yeah. No.
And really, really to piggyback on that, when they bring it all back together and they have this reconciliation at the river, it's twofold. And it's really fantastic because it shows that the reconciliation doesn't happen until Abuela recognizes what she's done. Right?
Yeah.
She is the first one to take action and say, I have done this to our family. But then it doesn't stop there, because it's not like she is prideful in vain, right?
Yeah.
And Mirabel validates her and says, we are here because of you. You built our family.
Yeah.
Right. And so it is mutually uplifting and mutually validating. And it's just a fantastic picture of reconciliation.
Yeah. Steven?
Well, I gave the plot. Actually, wait, hold on. Before I give my score, I have some holes to punch in it. We're not driving the illiterate train through here, but it's, there are some problems. So I ended up giving it an 8, which is still pretty good.
So pretty much 9, 8,
yeah, we
7,
hit right in it. Yeah. Because ultimately, when you have magic, it can be really hard to punch holes in the plot, except for super hearing. Because we don't just have the whole Bruno issue. We also have the moment where Mirabel, after she sees the cracks, the family tells her it's not happening because it's not happening. They doubt her. They kind of belittle her. Oh, you're just trying to take the spotlight, yada, yada. Late at night, she gets up and she goes up to the window where the candle is. That is Abuela's bedroom. And before she can do anything rash, Abuela is at the window and she is praying to her dead husband. Cracks in our house, guide me at this moment, blah, 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 blah. She's acknowledging that there's a problem.
Yeah.
And the only person she's acknowledging it to is Mirabel. And Dolores.
Because
Dolores doesn't get a choice in the matter.
Well, I mean, you could argue with that because she's in her room.
No.
She can tune it all out.
No, you can't argue that. Because the whole reason Mirabel talks to Luisa is because Dolores tells her, oh, Luisa's eye is twitching. I was listening to it all night. You can't, because I was actually prepared to be like, okay, well, she has to, she switches off. No, she was listening to something else all night. You don't get a choice. You hear everything. I mean, unless it's just like she has like a cone and she directs it in a specific direction. Well, that's not how it's presented.
To have that kind of, I mean, like just going completely off base here, to have that kind of power anyways.
It kills you.
I mean, yeah, you just die.
Because you can't sleep. Because no one can sleep when the marching band is next door. But what if the surrounding 30 blocks, everything is a marching band?
Yeah.
You just die. Yeah. No, it's a problematic ability.
Just like not even just for the story itself, just in general.
Yeah,
like,
taken out to its extreme, there are a lot of problems. So of all the magic, that's the easiest one to punch holes in because, hey, your ability just says that you should know Bruno is here and you should know there are problems. Why are you such a slacker for this family?
Well, and it does lead to some funny jokes, especially whenever, like, for the dining room scene, whenever they're trying to have dinner and like he's trying not to tell it's so funny, and that kind of stuff is totally worth it. But when you squint at it a little bit, then it gets a little
I mean, the interaction between Mirabelle and her father, where she's trying to hide the vision, which also the vision's becoming solid. I get it. You really go find the vision. How do I find a vision? Oh, it's just a piece of glass that's been shattered. Oh, okay. You needed it.
Well, he made it out of sand.
Well, I mean, that's what he does. He does swirling sands. But you needed because from my perspective, find a vision. Go to a mountain and have some peyote or like what? Peyote, whatever. Anyways, that scene where she's trying to hide the vision from her father, and then the house helps as well, which is a great. It's like it's okay. It's going to be okay. No one has to know. And Casita opens the door and it's kind of like, hey guys, there's a problem. And Dolores is like all the way across the way, like, yeah, I've got a secret. And there's like, oh, we are so doomed. Like in terms of plot and just visual storytelling and entertainment, that is just hard.
So funny.
Just really great stuff. But again, Dolores' hearing is an issue. What else? I had another.
Say good things.
Oh, do I have to say good things? Okay, I did say good things. We just talking about how. No. I'm not saying good things. I have a sin. I have a sin for this movie, and this is a pet peeve of mine. Don't tell me the name of the movie in the movie, early or late.
It did it both.
I know. if it just is built into regular conversation, just somewhere midway through, fine, I accept it. But when you are in the middle of a massive 10-minute run to start the movie that is just exposition, song, this exposition, don't drop that in there. And then also, don't climax it by confirming, oh, we are in our Encanto, or we have found this land. Like, no, stop, please. Just any other word, anything, please.
It doesn't bother me.
It's a pet peeve. It's just like it's not a true problem, but it's always gonna stick in my throat. Just that little extra bit.
It bothers me more in films like like there's like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies or something where it's like, oh, this is Total Recall.
Oh yeah, like
that kind of stuff where it's like so ham-handed. Like this actually felt pretty natural.
I mean, it does. I mean, it is a word
because I mean, it's just enchantment.
Yeah. So, but also, I really like the descriptions, like oh gosh, don't hit the mic. Own personal theories, right? Because we don't get a whole lot of explanation of the magic. This is the result of their abuelo's sacrifice and abuela's suffering at the river as a result of the sacrifice, because we see as the house cracks, and again, personal theory, the house is him. His portrait's on the wall, right? And the cracks always go straight through the wall behind that portrait. Both times we see the really big cracks happen. That is one of the main scenes that we get. And it's kind of the breaking of the family, because what made the family happen is the love and the sacrifices they make for each other.
Yeah.
And that is what creates the magic. So when you have selfishness, a lack of love, a lack of giving for each other, not just giving for the town, but giving for each other, that's where it fails. So I thought it interesting that while they showed enough for me to support that theory, they didn't really explicitly give it to us because it's a soft system at the end of the day.
So at the beginning of the film, they have them escaping over the river and him dying, and her getting the candle at that point. And I said out loud, my first watch through, at that point, that candle's a Horcrux.
Yes.
And nothing in the film disabused me of that theory.
So Abuela prays to her husband, right, at the window.
Yeah.
And then when she finds Mirabelle by the river, she says, I prayed to my Pedro and he led me to you. And then we have a magical butterfly landing on the reed, completing the vision and giving Mirabelle the clue of like solving. And it's like, this is all him working.
Yeah. And something to note too, it was the 1,000 Days War which matches up with the time of when they would have been disenfranchised from their home.
Right. Yeah. Which was kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say it was weird. It's interesting that they really, really did a good job of nailing down. This is Colombia. We have, a really strong roots Colombian cast. We have the music that's authentic.
Yeah.
They did a great job of really nailing down where this was. And in some sense, just because it was its own little magical enclosure valley, we didn't actually need any of it. It was extra effort, right?
Yeah. Well, and they don't specifically say that, but just I think a lot of internet sleuths kind of went through and looked at the garb that they're wearing during the film, and then they kind of dated that to like the 1950s, and then they backtracked it to whenever Abuela would be younger, which would, because they're all around 50 years old for the moms, which is pretty much right at 1,000 Days War.
Okay. And they did slap you with the Columbia right in the middle of the massive exposition dump.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all caught. She, like, Mirabelle, while she's singing, dances past a house that just has Columbia.
There was so much going on. I missed that.
That's true. No, I caught it the second watch.
I didn't know that it was set in Colombia until it got to the end, and I was looking at the subtitles for the Spanish song that they were singing at the end. It was like, oh, Colombia, oh, Colombia. I bet this is in Colombia.
It must be. I have, with my superior intellect.
So I knew going into it just because we watched like the behind the scenes of them making the music for it. So
my biggest complaint, it's a Disney song or Disney movie. It was a lot of songs. It was just, I actually, while Laura and I were doing our second watch through to kind of prep for this, I actually was holding the remote in my hand and dipping it down so I could see time marks as the part. I was like, at what point does this story stop being exposition and become story? I was like, oh, like 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, thanks. That's all I need to know. Because it just keeps going.
It's a lot of information. Okay, so I think that pretty much handles all of the plot scores. So let's move on to originality, and we can gush on the film a little bit more. And then, so I gave it a 9. I thought this is probably one of the Joel. You kind of said they've tried to do like kind of like the non-villain roles before, but then you've never really trying to think of any other Disney films that they've done that were like multi-generational families, kind of like this, where like I don't really think there's
certainly not recently.
Yeah, well, not recently. I got one for you where there is no villain, and it is not multi-generation, but is a generational conflict.
Where? What?
Goofy movie.
When? Okay. Anyway,
it is though. It is. Don't fight me on this. It is.
But yeah, like honestly, the movie was just. It felt very fresh. It was very just emotional. It was so much fun to watch, and I really, really, really like so many of the songs for the film. And it's really interesting too. Like whenever I think of like Mulan, I always think of it. There's a lot of music in it. There's only 4 songs in the entire film.
Yeah,
and if this one feels so like jam packed with music in it, just because they have like the 2 songs at the beginning, then they have essentially 4 songs in the center, then they have the little insert song with Abuela and the flashback, then they have like the kind of the exit song where they're rebuilding the house and everything, and on top of like all the other background music that's just kind of there to punctuate other scenes when they're not doing a musical number.
Yeah,
and I mean, it was just great. I loved watching it, especially the second time. I felt I got a lot more out of it than I did the first time watching it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna grab that, and I'm gonna say 9's not enough. I'm giving this a 10. I thought that this was a really fantastic kind of showcase of taking elements of different cultures and telling stories that not only are fantastic stories, but also honor those cultures.
Yeah.
Disney has been on a tour recently. They just did Moana before this. And, you mentioned Mulan, going back to that. And that is an example of, it's a really fantastic animated film, and I love watching it, but it is not something that jives with the culture that it ostensibly comes from.
Yeah, it feels very Western.
And so to have this new approach to telling stories that are based in other cultures that also are appreciated by people from those cultures is like that's the right way to do it.
It feels very genuine.
Yeah.
And has a lot of heart to it. And it was the same way with Moana. But this one, like it just has so much like tactile feel to it.
I mean, I'm giving it a 9. I mean, it's well done. It's very tightly put together. The stakes of the emotions of the fact that it's the small scale family interactions is just great. And you just don't get that very often. You know, we live in a world where we get a lot of Marvel where everything has to end in a huge CGI fight fest. And that's just not what this is.
Yeah.
It is literally just how do you make, create, maintain, heal, and repair relationships over time. And you know, some bits and pieces could be maybe a little trite or whatever. We've seen it, you know, the whole, oh, we help the town our whole time, and at the end it's the town that helps them thing.
Yeah.
It's nice to see in a plot. If it wasn't there, the plot would feel kind of hollow, but it has been done. I'll give them huge points. I don't actually think if I even touched on it, but my whole fear of Luisa's song when she had her twitch, because it's right after the engagement gets announced, and it's like, don't tell me that like she's worried she'll never get married. Like, don't give me something like this. Like, come on, you know, be this. And it's like, okay, no, she has other big internal concerns about herself. And I was like, okay, that's so much more interesting.
Yeah. Well, and the amount of how they kind of illustrated just normal feelings that a lot of Disney films don't really like touch on, especially like the older ones where it's always more of like a fairy tale, where I really enjoy that they're giving characters say like real world problems of like anxiety, depression, the pressure of expectations of what, you know, how you're supposed to act or how you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to perform. And it, you know, it really hits home.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these types of movies, right? The fantasy, the animated, they evoke emotions in you, right? Yeah. The characters have the emotion.
Yeah.
And you are pulled along with them and you're on that ride with them, but it's not so much that it's trying to just press emotions out to you. It's that you're genuinely concerned for the emotions of these characters.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very interesting flip.
Well, because you know what it's like.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just very real.
Yeah.
So, huge props. Obviously, all three of us really enjoyed it.
Yep.
Highly recommend. Very accessible. Disney Plus, easy to just, you know, grab on a stream and watch. But I think that is going to wrap us up for this episode. So until next time, I'm Steven.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Joel.
And every spoiler was intended. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you heard, you can support the show for as low as $1 at patreon.com/spoilersintendedpodcast. We also have a Discord server and would love to have more people joining in the conversation. Links are in the description below. Thank you.